Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast with Dan Casper.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to this episode of the Man Cave Podcast, brought to you by Hy-Vee and Toyson Ford. Dan Casper here with you, as always, for every episode of the podcast. Big thanks for tuning in. Coming up, we're going to talk with Brandon Berg. Brandon, our good buddy, is going to be back on. We're going to talk some Brewers with him, with the Brewers getting ready to start their spring training games. Also, we got another top five coming at you. Let's just say an interesting one. This was Brandon's idea, okay? Top five Bears of all time. So it kind of went down a crazy path. Not going to lie. Kind of went down a crazy path. That's going to be at the back end there. But I want to begin this episode of the podcast. We finally heard for the first time from the new Packers defensive coordinator, Jeff Hafely, the other day. What are your first impressions of the new defensive coordinator? What stood out to me, well, first of all, he kind of highlighted or talked about some stuff that we had heard, so he kind of confirmed it, right? So I think for maybe a lot of fans out there, when you heard him say, I like to play press man, I mean, people were already probably ready to build a statue for the guy. You know, little over-exaggerating, obviously, but that's a big thing that Packers fans have wanted this defense to do. So we heard about it. He confirmed it. It's like, all right, here we go. But the big thing that really stood out to me is something I feel like we have been saying for a long time. For a long time. And it's like, he said it word for word. It's something that I've been saying, a lot of you have been saying, and he almost said it word for word. We have got to put our players in a position to succeed. How many times have we said that? Like, it felt like we weren't getting that. It felt like players were being, at times, out of position. Maybe, again, one of my favorite quotes from Kevin Green, players not in a position to, quote, affect games. It felt like that for how long, right? We talked about that. We vented about it. And to hear Hafely mention it a few times in just that first 10 minutes, and if you haven't listened to the whole thing, I mean, he mentions it quite a bit throughout his presser, but to put players in a position to affect games, put them in a position to succeed. Because I think a lot of us feel like there's certain players on this defense that, are they in a position to succeed? Are they in the best position for themselves for this defense? So to hear him kind of come out and say that was like ding right away for me. All right. Now I know talk's cheap. Actually have to see it on a field, right? We got to see it. Got to see it produce. And I know some of you said, will he be involved, or asked, would he be involved in, with the draft process, maybe finding players to fit his style of defense. Goody kind of mentioned that a couple weeks ago when he had his end of the season presser. And the reports out there that Jeff Hafely was hired or was going to be the defense coordinator. So they already talked about that. And Goody kind of already mentioned that, definitely would kind of pick his brain and such and find guys or see what his style is and fits his needs and such. So to hear him say that, ding, ding. If you listen to the whole thing, he talks about, and one of the things that you heard others talk about, players, Richard Sherman was one of them and such, detailed, grinder. We've heard that about Matt LaFleur. Aaron Rodgers has said that about Matt LaFleur, just a grinder. And we hear this about Hafely too. And he talks about being a teacher and a really good teacher. But the other thing that really stood out to me too was making their defense so these guys can just go out there and ball and play fast and play with their hair on fire. Not thinking, How many times have we talked about whether different sports, but mostly football, but it's like when you get to that point where you're not thinking and you're just doing. Simplifying the defense, but so that you are allowing your players to play fast. Not overcomplicating things. I mean, I think that's where a lot of times you see that communication issue. I mean, it felt like, not every game, not every snap, but it felt like at times when we're looking at that defense, whether it's on TV or if you're at the game, miscommunication, guys not understanding what to do, still trying to line up, still trying to figure out positioning right when the ball snapped. But that was ding number 2 for me when he talked about making sure that these guys, not to like say that he's not going to have an wide-ranging defense or a versatile defense, but teaching it and calling it and putting it together so that these guys can go out there, not have to overthink about it, just go out there, react, and play. Speed, right? Playing at their level, highest level. So that was ding number 2. Ding number 3, I'm going to kind of combine a couple things. When he answered Tom Silverstein's question about pass rush, and then the other part when he gets to the safety talk. But he talked about exotic looks. And he talked about how you have to get after the quarterback. You got to put pressure. He did say, there's certain times maybe, it's a lot of down and distances, right? That part where he talked about down and distances. But he talked about exotic looks. Got to get after the quarterback. Having that safety at the back end that could do so much. A few times he's talked about players playing with their hair on fire. But I guess where I'm getting at is like he talked about the exotic nature of this defense, putting pressure on a quarterback, having that back end safety that's all over the field, a guy that could come up and help stop the run, a guy that could play man coverage, a guy that could go sideline to sideline. Those were just a few of the things that really stood out to me. And overall, again, these are just first impressions, but overall, you're starting to maybe paint a picture of what maybe this defense can look like based off of what you're hearing him say. It's like, okay, this is what you want to do. It's kind of like, might be a bad example. Let's say it's like a police sketch. You're describing something and you're trying to put it together and you're drawing it all out. Okay, he's describing his defense, so you're trying to envision it. You got your marker board out and you're writing it out there. You're envisioning it because that's what I do. Maybe I'm the only one because I'm a nerd that way. But I'm like, oh, all right. We got the pressure at the quarterback. Okay, we got corners. Getting their hands on guys like he said, press man. He loves to play press man. All right, and then that safety. I'm thinking, can we get like a Kyle Hamilton type of safety at the back? I know it's not fair to put that comparison to a safety out there already, but it's like that's what he's describing. I'm like, oh, come on now. You're painting that picture. You're like Bob Rossing it. And it's like, all right. Because after listening to him, I got a little excited. First impressions, I know. But I got a little excited. I was like, all right. This is the stuff I wanted to hear. This is the mindset I wanted to hear from a defensive approach. And I feel like this is the stuff that a lot of Packers fans wanted to hear too. An aggressive defense. A defense that he wants his corners to play press man. He wants a back-end safety, a dominant safety at the back end. That's got to be a priority. I think that signifies now that this is going to be a priority in the offseason. That post-safety. Get ready for fans to use that term all the time now. Was star corner when Joe Barry got in here. Now it's going to be post-safety with Jeff Hafely. But we're all excited right now. I'm excited. I mean, this is a lot of the stuff that we have wanted our defense to do. We're being told this. We're kind of being sold, right? We're being sold on this approach, on this scheme. And I'm excited. I'm really excited about this. Like, can we get to preseason right now? Like, can we get rolling here? I want to see this in action. And I think if I'm a player and I'm hearing this stuff, and I'm hearing this from my new coordinator, how do you not get excited about that? How do you not get excited when you hear your coordinator say, I want you to play with your hair on fire. I want you to play so you're not overthinking things. I want you to be aggressive. How do you not get excited about that? I feel like you should. And I think what probably a lot of fans, when you heard his opening remarks talking about the Mecca that is Green Bay. Now, was that his belief throughout a bigger part of his life, like he kind of alluded to? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe it was a little, shout out to the fans and such. But hey, that's something we heard about when he was first hired. Was like he was drawn to the aura of the G of the Packers. But I can't wait to see this in action. I really can't. I'm excited and I'm pumped. And I hope it all works out. We don't know if it's going to work out. We don't know if this is going to be a home run. There may be some growing pains with it. But I think if I were a player in that locker room right now, and I hear some of that stuff, and I heard some of that stuff from my new coach, I'm motivated. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to hit the ground running. I think if you're Jair, you're excited. I think if you're Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness, Preston Smith, you're excited about pressure. Quay Walker, Kenny Clark. Safety, I don't know who's going to be on the ball club right now at this point in time. So that might be one of those moves where it's a draft and a free agent pickup. Who the heck knows? But it's definitely an important piece. Let's take a quick break, and we're going to talk some Brewers with our guy, Mr. Brandon Berg, after these quick words. We are always looking to save a little money in our pockets, but we still need our essentials like our grocery items. So how do you save money while also getting what you need for your family? Hy-Vee Perks. If you shop at Hy-Vee, you're already getting a great deal on quality items throughout the store. But now you can save more money with Hy-Vee Perks on different items each week. Saving some money is easy if you shop at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire. So take advantage of these awesome deals and sales and stop on over at Hy-Vee in Eau Claire today. Brandon, we were just talking about him, so we might as well get into it. Props to you, because you had mentioned it a couple weeks ago that you would like to see the Brewers sign Brandon Woodruff to a 2-year deal, and lo and behold, they did that. So I got to imagine you like this deal. You like the fact that they're bringing him in, and we don't have to go through the money thing because it's a couple million for the first year. Then it's like $5 in the second. Then it's a mutual option after that.
Or a $10 million buyout.
Right, which is a big chunk of change.
It is,
at that.
but yeah. No, I do. I don't know ultimately how or if Brandon Woodruff's going to be able to come back. It's a significant injury, especially being now in his early 30s.
Right.
But above all else, I'm just glad he's going to have that opportunity to do in Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like he was close to signing with another team until Milwaukee kind of came in at the last seconds with this. And I don't know if it was just the good old negotiating tactics, sort of thing. But, I mean, how much do you think of a benefit it's going to be for this team for this year to have him around the team? Because it sounds like he's going to rehab in Milwaukee. I don't know if he's going to be in the dugout or in the clubhouse with the team or following the team on road trips. But considering Freddie's going to be the new number one, and him and Brandon have been together for the last few years. You got some younger guys coming into the starting rotation. How big of a benefit do you think that's going to be to have Woody potentially around this ball club?
I think it helps just because he's a veteran, and for a lot of those youngsters, even if they haven't been around him, if they were in the organization when he was there, I think that kind of gives you a certain amount of clout that, if this guy's going to give me some advice, maybe I should listen because, he's been very successful. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a good thing with what could be a much younger rotation once you get outside the top couple of people.
Mm-hmm. So we got first spring training game coming up tomorrow already for the Crew. We talked about it the other day, but again, you're my Brewers guy, so we're embarking the 20th year of Mark Anastasio as owner for the Crew, and for the last few years, he has been polarizing lightning rod. I mean, for some Brewers fans, but if you had to do a job performance review of Mark Anastasio, the owner, for the last 20 years, how would you assess it? How would you grade it? I mean, because, especially after the Corbin Burns trade and, with a stadium financing, he's kind of been criticized a lot by Brewers fans. But when you look at it overall and you look at this run for postseason appearances, and you and I are the same age, where our first playoff appearance was 2008 that we experienced, right? That was our first one that we got to. And who was the owner? It was Mark, So when you look at it, his 20 years, how would you assess his job performance?
I would say overall, he's done well. If I had to give it a grade right now, I would probably say like a B. Maybe I could be talked into a B+, just because of the grand scheme of things. When you look at where this franchise was when he first took over to now, it's a remarkable change. I mean, I listened to you talk earlier this week when you kind of deep dived into this on your own, and in the late 90s into the early 2000s, the Brewers were worse than bad. They were irrelevant.
Yeah,
people didn't care.
Yeah.
They were the way that the Bucks kind of were for a long period of time, where even when they would, in like the later 90s, they would consistently win like mid-70s of games. They go like 76 and 86, and there were some talented players on those teams, but that team just never really had that foothold in this state. Now, at that time, obviously, Packers, Badgers, were taken up, and rightfully so, but it really...
They were like there.
They were there, and it was like...
I had a hat, but I didn't really follow them.
Right, and I think a lot of other things kind of come into play, like, if it wasn't for radio, like, it was tougher to find the team because at the time they weren't really broadcast that much. I guess in some ways kind of full circle right now, but... And then, Mark Anastasio takes over or buys the team as a majority owner in the mid-2000s, I believe it was. And that kind of coincides with, the rise of the franchise because of that, young position player group of Braun, Fielder, Weeks, Hart, Hardy. You already had Ben Sheets in place.
Yep.
I just feel like maybe it kind of gave fans, especially younger fans, I think, something to grab onto.
Yeah.
Because certainly in the latter 90s and early 2000s, the Brewers kind of had that reputation of like, well, they never keep anybody. You look at all the really good players they had, and they all got traded. Jeremy Burnett.
Carlos Lee,
as you get into the earlier that was more earlier 2000s, but Jeff Cirillo, Mark Loretta. Just a lot of that. And they're just, I think for a lot of fans, it was tough to kind of take your time with a team when ultimately, well, I really like this player. Well, he's going to be traded for not much in 2 years anyway, because none of those trades really, I don't think, yielded much. I think the first significant trade they made that actually kind of helped the team was the Richie Sexton deal. And that was, the team, as you got into later 2000s, I mean, it just became more competitive. I mean, I remember 2005, I've said this on here before, but I threw a party because the Brewers did not finish with a losing record.
Yeah.
A couple years later, in 2007, they're in they're kind of in that playoff fight up until the end. 2008, obviously, they make it, and really, and I've said this in more recent years, but since 2017, the Brewers have played 2 games in the regular season that haven't meant anything. The last game of 2017 and the last game of 2022. Every other game has had playoff implications. That is unheard of in the history of the franchise. So, if you would ask me this in 2019, my grade for Mark Anastasio would probably been an A-. Because I think when you look at, and to me 2019 is kind of an important line, because you look at that kind of stretch there where like the payroll kept rising. I believe 2019 might still be the high watermark for payroll. I think it was like $131 million. Or something like that. Remember, that was the offseason where they made the big splash with the Yasmani Grandal. They brought back Mike Moustakas when that wasn't expected. And I give him a pass for 2020 and 2021 because that was obviously just such a different time where I could understand if, finances are a little bit tighter with everything going on.
Right.
But the last few years, it's been one of those things where it's like, yes, they've spent some money, but when you look at kind of that high water mark, it's like, but they haven't got back up to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of fans, and myself included, kind of thought like, well, as long as it's competitive, that could be the new normal, as opposed to, well, this is just something we did one time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what disappoints or frustrates a lot of fans.
Would that be kind of related then to where, great, we've made all these postseasons and that, but now the expectations and the goals got a little bit higher?
I think so.
Does that relate to what you kind of?
Oh, that's part of it too. Where, and really, I mean, it's not necessarily always on Mark Ananasio with the players doing the postseason. It's not Mark Ananasio's fault that a Brewers team that down the stretch hit pretty well suddenly couldn't hit against the Diamondbacks. That's not his fault. It's not his fault that Corbin Burns gave up 3 or 4 home runs or whatever it was against the Diamondbacks. It's not his fault Brandon Woodruff got hurt. Whatever, all these different things. The playoff still is a crapshoot.
Mm-hmm.
And all you can do is put yourself in a spot where you feel okay going into it. But I think that to me it's just kind of twofold. Number one, because I can remember what it was like in the early to mid 2000s, right before that group of players arrived, and even late 90s. Like, I still cannot fully just be like, well, I don't, just Mark Ananasio sucks. He doesn't do anything good. I can't think that way, knowing that and knowing how far this franchise has come. It's important to keep that perspective. But at the same time, expectations change. Mm-hmm. And now that this team has established that there is a way for it to be a consistent contender, sometimes you'd like to see them do a little bit more to kind of maybe try to put it over the top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree with you. And the one thing, too, I wanted to ask, a lot of people point to him with the Josh Hader trade, little Corbin Burns there, too. And, I mean, I could still hear his presser after the Josh Hader trade, and a lot of his answers were, that's a question for David. That's a question for David. And part of me, and I know he's an owner and he can do this, he can veto whatever, probably, I would assume. But do you feel like, too, he's like, I'm going to let my baseball people do what they do? Maybe I don't understand. I know he talked about, I don't know if you read this interview with the Journal Sentinel, but it was like, was it Lyle Overbay when they traded him and like his wife wouldn't talk to him? She was so upset. Like his family was upset that they traded Lyle Overbay. Do you get the impression he's and I know there's a joke there used to be about Scott Boras. If Scott Boras needed a guy signed, he would just call Mark Ananasio.
Right.
But it feels like, does he just let his baseball people do their job? And he may not like some of the moves or gets nervous, but that's their role. It
seems like it, and then I think that's the right way to go. I mean, you have to trust that the people you've hired to do their job can do their job, and the people that have spent their whole life in baseball know more about baseball than you do. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've seen it a lot over the years in other sports, or even in baseball, where owners believe they know best when it comes to player personnel decisions. Mm-hmm. And that, I mean, when you do that, you're just stepping on the toes of, again, the people that you've hired.
Right.
I think it's a little bit different when you mentioned the Boras connection, and that even happened a little bit with Rhys Hoskins, where if he goes to, I think it's a little bit different if he goes to, someone like a Scott Boras and says, okay, well, what if we up the offer by $2 million? Because at the end of the day, he is the owner. It's coming out, it's coming out of his pocket. To me, that's a little different than Flap saying, I don't want you to do, to sign player A, or I don't want you to trade player B. Mm-hmm. To me, that's a lot different. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think that's a very important distinction that it seems as though he's made. I mean, we'll never know if there was a trade that, was supposed to be made that is Nick's, but it seems to be that way with him.
Right. So, I know, again, it's almost a week old, too, but first time I get to ask you about this, and I asked you about it on Twitter last Saturday, but the Athletic article about Sal Frelick potentially playing some infield, and then lo and behold, the Brewers posted a video later that day of him taking grounders at third base, and he played like a lot of probably major league ball players, played shortstop at high school, and really hasn't played the infield in college or since then. But it was an interesting piece. Talked about Dustin Pedroia, and obviously Murphy's got the connection with Pedroia and such, and Sal Frelick's favorite player was Pedroia, grew up in Boston and all that. But your thoughts on Sal Frelick potentially playing the infield? I don't want to set the bar like next Mookie Betts, sort of thing, because that's really high to do that. But your thoughts on Sal Free, because that's something we didn't really talk about, and we know that the outfield depth, that young depth, we kept saying, who's the odd man out? Who's that odd man out going to be? Well, now we got another scenario here, maybe one of them moving to the infield potentially.
Yeah, I mean, why not? I mean, if it's something he's up to do, obviously he's an athletic guy. I mean, you're right in that it could potentially alleviate some of those outfield, log jams.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if it's something he's up for, and it sounds like, he's going to get the opportunity there, he's going to play there in games because, I mean, you can take all the ground balls you want, but at the end of the day, there's no substitute for being out there in games and kind of going through the game situations live.
Yep.
So, why not? I mean, I think his bat probably works better at second than third, but, there's also other dominoes in play when it comes to Tyler Black and, some other people, how everything's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
But there's certainly a pathway to either of those positions for him to play.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you say bat, that's for like power, right?
I mean, he's not a big power guy, and but I'm not sure that and neither is Tyler Black, so I'm not sure that neither is Andrew Monasterio. It just doesn't seem like the Brewers have that's just not something that's going to happen. Doesn't mean you can't be successful. I mean, you can. If you're a good hitter, you can be a good hitter without being a big power hitter, which is generally third basemen are.
Mm-hmm.
So. But yeah, I mean, there's no reason not to. I guess if that's something he's up for, he's certainly kind of got the athletic profile for it. So give her a shot and see, because if suddenly you got a guy that can play second and third, that's a big thing for you.
With spring training, the first game coming up, and I know it's always kind of hard to kind of look at because there's a lot of games. It's not like football preseason where you can see individual 3 games and look at players. But with this, and I know pitchers are working on a lot of stuff, so maybe don't freak out about pitching numbers, when it comes to these games. But with spring training opening up, with the games starting tomorrow for the Brewers, is there anything player-wise, Pat Murphy-wise, anything that you're kind of maybe curious to see, follow along, or maybe kind of watching with these games?
I'm just kind of curious to watch all the young guys, I guess, because there's a bunch of them, and just see, be it hitters or pitchers, just kind of what they look like, because there's a lot of them that are going to go into spring training with an opportunity. Certainly we know all the outfielders, someone like Tyler Black, who really doesn't have much left to prove at AAA. Kind of the same thing with Joey Ortiz, who one of the guys that came over in the Corbin Burns trade. There's just a lot of guys right now that they're kind of if they're not in the majors, they will be this year. And that's, I think, really exciting. And spring training is always a chance to kind of see them, and you don't want to put too much stock in, he's hit the ball, cover off the ball in spring training, because, I mean, there's examples over the years where sometimes it translates to the regular season, sometimes it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I think just seeing some of those, young guys get an opportunity, because obviously that's going to be a big part of if the Brewers are successful this year, is how the Frelichs and the Garrett Mitchells and the Joey Wiemers, and when he gets to the majors, Jackson Churios and Tyler Blacks of the world do.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, and I know we won't know until the real games probably start, but with Pat Murphy coming in, older manager, longtime college coach, Notre Dame, Arizona State, interim coach for the Padres there for a little bit. But with all this speed, and I saw some of the projections, I'm sure you saw the top 5 dark horses to lead stolen bases was Jackson Chourio and Bryce Terang. Do you feel like that with Pat Murphy coming in, we may see a little bit of an older school approach and being more aggressive on the base paths, stealing bases like that, where maybe, not to say they're going to completely abandon analytical stuff or anything like that, but could you see that potential, maybe a little bit more of an old school mind approach with this?
I would like to see it, but it's not even necessarily because it's kind of a bit antithetical for kind of analytics, just because I think it's it's how your team is just kind of built.
Mm-hmm.
So and if you have a bunch of people that can steal a bunch of bases, use it. And the first year that Craig Counsell with the Brewers, they stole a ton of bases. Hernan Perez had a 30 steal season. You had Keon Brox, and you had just so many guys that could steal bases, and they really took advantage of that. But then, kind of as they got further in the tenure and he got more in the way of power hitting, it kind of went away. So I would like to see that, just because I think it's a good usage of the talent you have. I mean, you have a bunch of guys on the roster that you're anticipating are going to be in the roster that you could steal 20 or 30 bases at least. And I think that's just something that something the Diamondbacks did with great success last year.
Right.
Not quite as much in the postseason, but they were still successful doing it. Like, I think that's something that can really put a lot of pressure on the opposing teams, and I would like to see them do it simply because I think it's a way they could win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's take a quick break, and Brandon and I are going to do our top 5 plus after these quick words. Are you thinking of taking a spring break trip this year? Or maybe you're already eyeing up that summer vacation, but you're not quite sure if you have the proper transportation for those road trips. Hey, that's where Toyson Ford can help you. Toyson Ford has a wide selection of new and used vehicles for you to check out. And at Toyson Ford, they treat you like an honored guest. They will work with you on financing no matter what your budget may be. So if you're looking for that new vehicle this year, head to Toyson Ford, located at 1000 Chippewa Crossing Boulevard in Chippewa Falls. We're back. Brandon still sitting across from me for another top 5 plus. We reveal our top 5 on various random lists that we come up with. The plus indicating because we always usually have some honorable mentions, which it sounds like this time I've got more honorable mentions than you do.
It's actually pretty impressive.
Yeah, I know, right? So, okay, you're the one who thought of this. How and why did you come up?
I don't
with
have a good
this
answer
one?
to that.
Well,
I
it's
was
top 5 Bears.
top 5 Bears.
So when you texted me if we were doing a top 5, and I asked if you had any suggestions, and you said Bears, and I thought you were going to go with an office route, so I texted back saying Beats. And then what did you text back?
Oh, I think I texted.
Oh, you don't like them?
I don't like Beats.
Yeah.
No,
I was going,
no,
yeah.
and I knew what you were doing, but
Sure you
I'm
did.
just like,
Sure you did.
no,
Yeah.
I don't want no.
All right. So we're going random. Top 5 Bears, but plus some honorable mentions. Since I've got 5 honorable mentions, should I go first?
Yes.
Okay. In no particular order with the honorable mentions, okay? No particular order, like not ranked over here. I'm going to go gummy bears. Gummy bears are one of my favorite candies of all time. Not the hard ones. You got to have a soft gummy bear.
Yeah, there's different types. I would agree.
Yeah, I don't want to throw brand names under the bus.
No,
or anything
no,
like
we
that.
don't.
But there's some that are
You know
really
who you
hard. I like the soft gummy bears over there. Orange, best flavor. Best flavor. I am going to go. People, if we threw this out for a lot of people, probably would have him as top 5. He's okay. Ted the Bear. The movie Ted the Bear. The reason being I kind of downgraded a little bit. Okay, movies are funny in that, but it's the same voice as Peter Griffin. And I can't get Peter Griffin out of my head when I watch Ted or see Ted, so he gets knocked for that. Yogi Bear, cartoon, Yogi Bear, he's on there. I am going to go, do you remember the book Corduroy?
Yeah.
I had that book as a kid, so Corduroy is on there. And then finally, because Hudson, my kid, watches this all the time, Paddington Bear.
There you go.
Number 5. So those are my honorable mentions. Big guy. Where are you at for your honorable mentions?
I just had one I had to add, so. And it wasn't one you said, just something. Okay.
Okay.
My 4 honorable mentions. Number 1, Yogi Bear and Boo Boo.
Okay.
They're a package deal. Number 2, Winnie the Pooh.
Yep.
Winnie the Pooh and all of his friends in the 100-acre wood, but Winnie
Yep.
the Pooh first and foremost. Another honorable mention for me, polar bears, preferably ready to hand you an ice cold Coca-Cola because they are willing to do that.
Solid poll.
And my last one, bears driving tiny cars.
Okay, I know what you. Yeah.
You
I thought
can
of
see
another
the visual.
one.
You can see the visual.
I thought of another one.
Go for it.
I thought of another one, but I'm going to do this. I'm actually putting them in my top 5, and I'm taking one out and putting an honorable mention.
Okay.
I'm taking Winnie the Pooh out,
Okay.
and this one's going to go in my top 5.
Okay.
So, number 5.
Number 5.
Number 5. This is not who I added, so the person I added is actually at number 4 now.
Ooh.
But number 5, I was a big fan of them as a kid. They had a setup over there at Valley Fair when I was a kid. The Berenstain Bears.
Ooh. Oh, that's a good one.
I had all those books. Valley Fair had a thing, I think it's Snoopy now, but it was all Berenstain Bears.
Nice.
Yep.
That's a good get.
Number 5.
My number 5 bear is Walter Payton.
I didn't have any athletes in this one because I cannot pick Bears players.
Walter Payton. I'm just I don't care. Like you and I are not in the business of being Bears fans.
Yeah.
I don't care how you cannot not like Walter Payton.
No, sweetness. Absolutely.
Yeah. So Walter Payton, number 5.
I can get on that board. Number 4, Bear Grylls.
This is why I like this topic, because it's so wide open. And my number 3, you are going to get mad at me about.
Yeah,
because I'm taking some liberties.
Okay, that was what I thought of. I'm like, oh, Bear Grylls. I mean, who hasn't watched something with Bear Grylls? One of his best is when he's with Marshawn Lynch and trying to survive out there, just because Marshawn Lynch is awesome. But yeah, Bear Grylls. Come on, everybody wants to do a Bear Grylls, including Michael Scott from The Office. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah,
well,
number 4.
Number 4, speaking of The Office, some from The Office would say that a black bear is the best bear. However, for me, just number 4.
Oh,
black bears, good solid bears.
I went a little bit of a different route than you. I don't know if you're going to like my 3. I don't know if you're going to get it. So you're already teasing this one. This one, I feel like you're going to be like, oh, good pull. The bear from Anchorman.
I love that. I love that so much.
You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, when Veronica gets thrown into the bear enclosure.
Yep. And then when Baxter goes down there and saves
fights him up, because they've.
Yep.
I can't remember the name of the bear, but Baxter has met the bear in his travels.
His family. Yes.
Yes, that's his family.
I'm gonna see if I can Google it right now. What is I don't know if it's got the bear's name on there, but you all know what I'm talking about. Yeah, when the bear comes out and.
Yes.
Yeah, and then Baxter
barks
talking.
and says that he knows.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes. So, I got the bear from Anchorman. Your number 3. Why am I going to get mad now?
I have the biggest poop-eating grin on my face for this one. Because, as I said, I'm taking liberties. My number 3 favorite bear, Barry Sanders.
Oh, God, that's annoying. That's annoying. I like my list so much better now than yours. A Barry Sanders. Come on,
Bear.
What, your number 2 is probably going to be like Wild Berries or something like that.
Oops, I'll bury Captain Crunch. Or Crunch Berries. I did not. No, my other 2 get back on track, but that was one where I'm like, I got to put that in there.
You are so lame, dude. You are so lame. Barry Sanders. You can't have 2 running backs in this. There should have been a rule.
Why, just because I don't have a quarterback?
Yeah. Okay. Number 2. 2 versions of him, both great. Baloo the Bear from the Jungle Book. The cartoon one, but also the I don't think it's called live action, but it wasn't the cartoon one, but Bill Murray voiced Baloo in the Jungle Book movie. Come on now. The bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. How do you not like Baloo regardless of that? Baloo,
right?
Number 2.
I guess in hindsight, I appreciate the amount of thought you've put into this in a short period of time.
Yeah.
In hindsight, maybe I should have just put the entire cast of Tailspin in as an honorable mention. But I will say that TC Bear, the mascot for the Twins, would have made an honorable mention for me, except he doesn't wear pants, and I don't like that. Neither does Yogi. But why wear a shirt if you're not?
Okay.
That's what annoys me about the what's the toilet paper commercial with the bears in it?
Yeah.
It annoys me that they were freaking out that the kid's underwear was on the ground, yet they're not wearing pants.
Okay.
I can't respect those bears.
All right.
My number 2 bear, you mentioned earlier, gummy bears. I love gummy bears.
Nice.
All kinds of flavors. Like I mentioned, I agree with you. They have to be the softer kind. But in college, we made alcoholic gummy bears. Delicious.
Okay.
You soak them in.
So it's like Jello shots.
Yeah, we soaked them in. I forget if it was vodka or what. But
Yep.
Ate too many of them. Definitely got gut rot, but it was worth it.
I thought of another honorable mention, Care Bears.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Care Bears
there
over there. So, my number 1's easy though. It's Smokey the Bear, because, my aunt worked for the Forest Service, so I was buds with Smokey the Bear. I have, Brandon, a Smokey the Bear T-shirt.
Nice.
I still wear Smokey the Bear. Only you can prevent forest fires. I had a Smokey Bear poster as a kid.
I'm a little disappointed how Smokey passes the buck with forest fire safety. Why can't he do anything about it? He just says only you can prevent forest fires.
But you should like him. You know why?
What's that?
He wears pants.
He does. That's true. This gives him points in my book.
He wears jeans. So, just saying.
He has his positives, but I still feel he passes the buck.
What do you want him to do? To stop fires.
Well, you know what would be a much more clever catchphrase? Only you, with me helping out, can prevent forest fires. He says, "Hey, I'll help," but it's still on you.
He's
like,
helping by
you
spreading
take
the
personal
message.
responsibility, but I'll be there to help too.
Why should he help for people's idiotic crap that they do out there?
We can say that about a lot of things in life.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, he can't be in every forest, though, can he?
Can he?
I don't know. Can he? I don't know. I think I actually had
Bears
a
move really
Smokey
fast.
the Bear stuffed animal, too,
Nice.
as a kid.
Where are your Smokey
I
the Bear?
took
Do
the
you still have the Smokey the Bear shirt?
Yeah.
Wear it next week.
Okay. I took the Junior Ranger written test and passed it when I was a kid. Hudson's got a bunch of Smokey the Bear stuff.
Nice.
So, yeah, number one, easy, Smokey the Bear.
My number one is very easy. When I say it, you're going to go, okay, that makes sense. My number one bear, the Hams bear.
Oh, Jesus.
The Hams bear is like a treasure trove when it comes to like collectibles.
Yeah.
Like people, when they look for Hams collectibles, they want the Hams bear on it.
Mhm.
And for a while you couldn't, but now you can again, I think. So, but the Hams bear, the best bear. From the land of sky blue waters.
You know, when you first approached this certain topic, I didn't think there was going to be a lot. And now there's just like a crap ton that we could have
Exactly.
thrown out there.
Exactly.
There's one obvious one you and I both didn't throw out there. What's the three bears? The three bears.
Goldilocks.
Goldilocks. Thank you. No, we didn't.
Goldilocks got what was coming to her, I say. Going to somebody's house, she's trespassing.
Yeah,
she's eating their
I'd
food.
agree with that. I would agree with that. But I mean, that's where we should probably give a little love to the Bears for standing their ground.
They stood their ground, but they didn't. They didn't like maul her.
Kung Fu Panda for maybe some younger people out
That's a
there?
good one, yeah.
Jack Black, shout out Jack Black over there.
Bear in the Big Blue House.
Oh, I forgot about that one. I have not seen.
He's a friendly. I mean, I haven't seen it forever, but he's a friendly dude back in the day.
I haven't seen the movie Bear, the Bear or whatever. It's like the Cocaine Bear
I
or
was
whatever.
gonna say Cocaine Bear, yeah.
Cocaine Bear. I haven't seen that, so I can't put that out there. So.
I can't speak on Cocaine Bear.
Oh, I should have. One of my favorite Disney movies of all time, we have it on Blu-ray, is the Robin Hood one. And Little John is a bear.
Yes, he is. Isn't Robin Hood a fox?
Yeah. Darn it. Should have made a top 15 one for this one.
But not in Nottingham. That's Robin Hood, right?
Nottingham is that a song?
No,
in
when
that
they're
movie?
singing in the jail.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. I don't know. I'm going to have to check. I'm going to have to listen to that one.
Yeah, you will.
So, all right, this one turned in a little bit.
I knew this one would break out.
We didn't even say, was it Fozzie the Bear from
Fozzie Bear, yeah.
from
He's a good one.
Muppets over there, too. So,
Not the greatest comedian, but he tries.
Waka Waka.
In case you're wondering, Mike Birbiglia, a comedian, has a great story about doing comedy with during a Muppet show.
Really?
And Fozzie Bear. He is one of my favorite comedians, and it is a very good,
Nice.
very fun sketch.
All right. So there you go. There's our top 10 plus almost.
I knew
sort of
this one
thing.
would blow up.
There you
I
go.
knew it.
That's going to end it for this episode of the podcast. Again, big thanks to our sponsors, Hy-Vee and Toys and Ford. Please still sponsor us after that top 5 plus.
What are your
there.
favorite bears? I want to know.
I would like a bear rug for the man cave. I would. I think it'd be cool. That
You
got
got a
a little
fireplace?
dark. A fake one.
It works.
That's going to do it, though, for this episode. Appreciate you tuning in. Don't forget, if you got a few seconds, 5-star ratings on Spotify and Apple and a positive review.
Especially after this one.
Yeah, so others can find the podcast. Until next time, we will talk to you on the next episode of the Man Cave Podcast.